last month or this month, I'm just going to start the whole thing over again because all of that was wrong. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with some books that I am terrified to read. I need a lot of liquid courage for this. It makes it sound like I'm drinking alcohol. It's coffee. So I have been looking at my shelves quite a lot recently with the move that happened last year and with myself not having a library card until this month. Just like even my bookshelf tour that it should be up already, so I will link that above if you're curious. I've just been focused on my books a lot, and I've noticed that there are some books that I always steer away from when like making a TBR or, you know, just thinking of books that I am interested in, or when I rearrange my shelves, just seeing some books that I'm just like, oh, forgot I owned that. And I realize that those books are all books that I am just so scared to read. So I'm hoping that by putting this video out there, y'all will tell me that I am not alone in being scared of some books. So I'm just going to go through all of the books that I'm like the most terrified to read. Now I know for a fact that there are more books on the shelves that I just, you know, skim away from or just purposely avoid in my reading, but these are like the main ones. That's enough intro. Let's just get into the books that I'm scared to read. The first one is one that I'd love to read, but I'm not upset if I don't get around to it. And that is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. Now, this one I picked up a couple of years ago, right after the movie came out, because I watched the movie and I loved the movie so much. It was right up my alley as far as like, you know, historical classic works, and so I really was intrigued by the original material. So I found this copy at Barnes & Noble. It's one of their like fancy classic editions, and I thought, that's great, I'll pick it up. Have it since. And I think it's mostly because it's a Thomas Hardy book, and I've never read a Thomas Hardy book before, so I don't know how his writing is. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy his writing, and that scares me so much. I know what the story is mostly about because I have, you know, seen the movie, so I know the general plot line of this, and I think it's a book that I would enjoy. It just scares me. And I don't know what else to say. It's just one of those classics that is like super terrifying. Like I don't want to read a lot of Charles Dickens for the exact same reason. This next one is mostly dead. It's the size. That's the only reason I'm scared of this. And that is The Real Jane Austen, A Life in Small Things by Paula Byrne. This book is one that is a nonfiction book. It's in my nonfiction TBR for the year. And it's literally Jane Austen's life in small things. So like on the back it says that the author uses a very interesting technique where every single chapter she begins with a small object that conjures up a key moment or theme in Jane Austen's life and then uses that to explain a part of her life. And I find that so interesting, but this book is not thin. It is a chunk to read. How many pages is this? Boy, stop. It's not even 400 pages. But like, it's just like a big, tall book compared to like normal paperbacks, and it just feels really thick. And it feels like a super dense book because it is a nonfiction. So I'm just terrified to read this book because of its size. I think I'm going to really enjoy it when I am reading it because it's about Jane Austen. It's a very interesting way to look at her life, but it's a thick one. It's a thick, big one, and I'm scared. The next one is not necessarily a book or a series. It's kind of the author, and for me that is Gregory Maguire, who, what was that name I just said? Gregory Maguire, who wrote the Wicked series. Now I've got all 4 in the Wicked series, but I've also got a couple extras. He wrote Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, which is like a retelling of Cinderella from like the stepsister's point of view. And then I've also got After Alice, which is an Alice retelling, and for me it's like he's a very complex writer. So for what I remember when I read Wicked like 5 years ago is that there was just a lot and it took me months and months to get through it, and I'm really scared that's just the way he writes, and I think it is. So I think these are stories that I would really, really enjoy. I'm just scared to get started because Wicked was just a lot of stuff happening. So I don't know, I think they're just really complex stories, and I feel like I should be okay with that because it reminds me a lot of how Philippa Gregory writes all of her Tudor England books. They're really, really complex stories. So I think that all of his books are like that. I just need to get started. So the next one is one that I'm scared because of like a few things that I've heard about it, and it's not because people didn't like it, it's because of some of the things that are in this. Let me explain. So I'm talking about Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. I've heard this is a very gory book because of the magic system in this book, and like, I don't know if you can see, but there's like blood flowing from the W. I don't do well with gore in books. I don't. There's a limit, and I can fight my way through if I know it's not going to be that way the whole way through. Because this is a magic system that's very, I think, gory, I don't want to read it, and it scares me. And like, I could read this in an audiobook in a few days and be totally fine, and I'm sure it's not as bad as I'm like built it up in my head, but I've built it up in my head so bad that I don't want to pick this up, but I also don't want to get rid of it because it's such a beautiful copy, and I do think it's a fantasy that I would enjoy. I'm just too chicken to pick it up because of like one person's view that I've heard. I don't know. Am I crazy? If you've read this, let me know if it's like super bloody or not. Like, I just need to know because I'd love to read it, but now that I have that like filter in my head, I can't see beyond that. So the next few books are all part of the same series, and that is the Lord of the Rings series, including The Hobbit. I've had these forever, and I think because this is such a high fantasy, these are such hyped books. I've seen the movies, so like I know the world, and I do enjoy the world of the Lord of the Rings. I just have never gone to the original material because I'm scared of them. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because they're super high fantasy and I've never really read a super high fantasy before. I don't know what it is. Like, I know these worlds, I know these stories, I should be okay with them, but I'm still scared to read them. So I'm really, really intrigued to go into this series because, like I said, I know the world, I've just never physically read the original material. So I need to do that. I know that. But I'm so scared. And like, I know I'm going to enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I already enjoy the Lord of the Rings world. I just need to get over myself and read them. So, yeah. The next one is one that I am scared to read, but I'm also ridiculously excited to read, and I've talked about it multiple times on the channel, wanting to read it, and I still haven't. And that is Lovely War by Julie Berry. Now, this is kind of, I don't even know what you would categorize this as, historical fiction maybe, but it takes place in World Wars I and II, but it's like from the perspective of Greek gods interfering in four people's lives and kind of, I think, making them fall in love with each other and helping them out, but it's during this war. I don't know. It sounds amazing. I love Greek mythology. Y'all know this already. I talk about it a lot. And this is like a modern version of it. I don't know. It just sounds interesting. And I think the problem is I don't love World War I and II. Like, that's a time period that's not my favorite to read about. But World War I's and II's are not ones and twos. But World War I and II is just not a time period that I am driven to, I guess is the best way to describe it. I'm not against it. I don't hate books from that time period. It just scares me to pick up, but like, I really want to read it because it sounds interesting. The next one is another series just like Lord of the Rings that I am scared to get to, and that, I don't even know what the name of this, the Shrike series maybe, but it's that series of books that is written by Robert Galbraith, which is basically J.K. Rowling, and it's The Cuckoo's Calling, The Silkworm, Carrier of Evil, and Lethal White. Now, I started The Cuckoo's Calling a few years ago, but I was expecting it to be like her normal, I don't know, Harry Potter writing or something, and I had to remind myself that this is an adult book, so it's not going to be like that, and I don't even know how far I made it in here. I made it like 120 pages into this book, and I just stopped because I was forcing myself to read it, and I know that I want to read it. I know I want to read the series. I just can't get around to it, and I think the problem is that this is one of my husband's favorite series, and he really, really hypes it up. And I'm afraid I'm not gonna like it, and that I'm gonna not like one of his favorite books, which is okay. It's okay to not like your husband's, your best friend's, X amount of people's in your lives' favorite books. But it's like, I want to like it so much, and I'm afraid I'm not going to, so I keep putting off reading it for that reason. And the last one is going to be a real surprise when you see it, because it's not the same size as the rest of these, and that is The Chalice of Sarin by Stephen Galloway. I probably said all of the words in that sentence wrong. But it's like, do you see how small this book is? This book, I believe, takes place after one of the world wars, so it does fall into that whole historical fiction category, time period that I don't love. But this is one that I picked up because it was one of those blind date with a books that you have it's all wrapped up and you only know a few things about it. It's just a lyrical story of sadness is kind of what I have understood this to be, but it does follow in that time period that I don't love, and it's sad. I don't like reading sad books. I know they're important. I know they're important to make you feel, and some people really, really enjoy those feelings. I just don't love books that I know going into it I'm going to be sad. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have the same thoughts as me. If you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, please let me know your thoughts down below. I really want to read all of these books because they do sound super interesting. I'm just a chicken. That's the moral of this video, is I am a chicken. Let me know a book down below or a few books that you are scared to pick up, because I think we all have our own books that scare us, whether they are because they are big or the topic or, a million other different reasons. Please let me know one that you're scared to pick up. I would like to not be alone in my scaredness. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. And I will see you guys in my next video.